The spoilers for the next couple of episodes of Boruto have finally been released. Thank you, and all credits to Organic Dinosaur. Her link is going to be in the description below. I highly recommend you guys check out her exact Twitter and also give her a follow to stay up to date with all other Boruto news, because she is one of the biggest and most reliable sources of Boruto content thus far. But without further ado, let's get into the actual spoilers. Now, the first episode that I'm going to be talking about is episode 124. The title is going to be Decision Time. Going into the actual paragraph, it says, separating off from Shikadai and Tamari, Boruto and Shikadai head towards the Konoha village on their own in order to fulfill the duty that they were entrusted with. Urashiki, who has determined Shikaku's whereabouts, then appears in front of the two of them. Somehow, Boruto and Shinki manage to escape, even though their opponent is from the Otsutsuki clan, who possesses power beyond their imagination. At this rate, it doesn't seem as though they can escape without encountering any issues. At that moment, Boruto comes up with a particular strategy. Alright, now this episode right here has been very controversial on Twitter. As of right now, people are still confused about how Boruto and Shinki, they have no business doing anything with an Otsutsuki member. They have no business evading an Otsutsuki member. They have no business doing anything with a character like Itachi or a character like Madara, let alone an Otsutsuki member. And that right there isn't even mentioning the fact that Urashiki Otsutsuki himself has the Byakugan, so he could probably see almost 360 degrees around him, and also because he's an Otsutsuki clan, he could possibly see the full 360 degrees. We have no idea, so how can Boruto and Shinki come up with any sort of plan? I really hope they execute this episode to perfection, and after this episode we would say, okay, that's how they escaped, and we never really thought of a situation like that. But as of right now, as I said, I can't really think of a situation in which Boruto and Shinki are going to be able to evade Urashiki Otsutsuki. But nevertheless, this is going to be a very interesting episode. Of course, we're going on with the theme of Urashiki actually waking up and coming out of the ceiling thing that was casted on by Gaara himself. Now, of course, Urashiki, a powerhouse to himself, he's going to be able to do whatever he wants to. As of right now, Sasuke is not in this dimension. Naruto probably doesn't even know what's going on as of right now, even though he had an idea that Sasuke was going to probably encounter Urashiki Otsutsuki. But as was stated before, they never really expected Urashiki to be here at this time, like so soon. So right now, Shinki and Boruto, they're pretty much on their own. Of course, Tamari and other characters might be able to help, but as I said earlier, this is going to be a complete 100% evasion tactic. They're not going to try to fight Urashiki at all. They know they can't beat Urashiki. Sasuke and Gaara probably even already tried it, and it's probably not going to look well, especially seeing as how they're pretty much only going to be running. But the next episode is episode 125. The title's going to be Boruto and Shinki. Now, going into the actual paragraph, it says, Boruto and Shinki have executed their strategy, but in the end, Urashiki catches up with them. In order to fight against Urashiki, who is trying to obtain Shikaku's chakra and is mercilessly attacking them, Boruto and Shinki form a united front using jutsu that they have an excellent command over and which are considered to be their respective forts. However, Urashiki is a formidable enemy who even Sasuke and Gaara could not defeat, and moreover, he possesses the ability to come and go between other dimensions. Can Boruto and Shinki figure out a jutsu to use against Urashiki? Alright, now this episode right here seems to be more of a very much entertaining episode, mainly because the last episode that I did speak about, Boruto and Shinki are solely trying to evade Urashiki. Now this episode, it seems like Boruto and Shinki, they pretty much got caught by Urashiki, and they probably understand like, hey, there is no way we can run from Urashiki, and now we actually have to fight this guy. One thing that I am really looking forward to is probably Boruto and Shinki understanding or probably knowing that they're not going to be able to beat Urashiki, and them probably telling each other like, hey, we're about to die. Of course, I highly doubt that Shinki and Boruto are probably going to die in this episode. Hey, maybe Shinki actually does die, but definitely Boruto is not going to die. This paragraph also did note that Urashiki is supposed going to be mercilessly attacking Boruto and Shinki. Now, of course, if Urashiki was pretty much attacking Boruto and Shinki with everything that he has, they'd be done in like seconds. So I'm guessing that Urashiki is probably going to be playing with them in this episode. Another thing that's pretty much very significant is the fact that if Urashiki does actually attack them with the fishing rod, they're going to be immobilized. A character that's pretty much stronger than both of them, Sage Mode Mitsuki, was pretty much impaled by that fishing rod, and he was out of commission for days. Because this paragraph does include Boruto and Shinki doing things, I'm pretty sure he's not going to necessarily steal chakra from them off the rip. Now, of course, there's a very good possibility that at the end of the battle, he might actually steal chakra from them, and therefore they might not actually die right there, because Urashiki, he's not really a villain that kills people. He really only hunts for chakra. We've seen it in the fight versus Gaara. We've seen it in the fight versus Sasuke a couple episodes ago. These are the things that Urashiki is pretty much looking for. Now the next episode is going to be Boruto episode 126. The title is going to be Shikaku's Scheme. Now into the paragraph, it says Boruto and the others have brought along Shikaku to the Konoha village, but for the time being he'll have to spend some time in the Uzumaki residence. In order to escape from Urushiki's sight, Shikaku arrived at the Uzumaki residence while reluctantly being put in a small tea kettle. When Boruto's little sister Himawari saw this, and she called him Shikaku, and was thoroughly delighted with the situation. Then Shikaku hears the story from Boruto's father, Naruto, and the day of his inauguration ceremony as the current Hokage, Himawari had caused damage to not only Naruto but even Kurama, the Biju Kyuubi, who was sealed within Naruto. Neither of them can move at all as a result. Afterwards, Shikaku plots something. Alright, now this episode is really interesting for a couple of reasons. The first reason is that we understand that Shikaku evaded Urashiki with Boruto and Shinki going up against him. Now it's going to be very interesting, as I said a couple minutes ago, how they actually do have Boruto and Shinki pretty much evade Urashiki. They did it once, now it seems like they did it again, but this time it was actually successful. Now in this situation, they finally get to the Uzumaki residence. Naruto's finally there. Because they're at Naruto's house, we can't understand that Urashiki's probably going to sit back and probably try to plan things, mainly because he did already come up against a character of that stature like Sasuke, so most likely he's not going to probably rush in and try to fight Naruto all willy-nilly. Now another thing is the fact that they did kind of hint towards Shikaku being undetected in Naruto's residence, so it seems like this could possibly be a hideout for Shikaku. Now of course, the other parts about this paragraph is that Boruto's probably going to be telling Shikaku a whole bunch of stories. One thing that we do know is that Naruto is pretty friendly with a lot of the tail beasts, and it seems like the story that Boruto is going to be telling Shikaku right now is the story about how Himawari pretty much decked Naruto and had him pretty much immobilized and had Konohamaru have to do the whole inauguration of the Hokage thing, which is definitely a funny story. Now one thing that I'm really dreading is that half of this episode is probably going to be flashbacks, man, because we know that Naruto has a very long list and a long dreadful history of a lot of flashbacks. Now the next episode 127, the title is going to be Icha Tactics. Going into the paragraph, it says Boruto heard stories about Jiraiya, who was his father's Naruto's former mentor, and decided that he wanted to learn things about him. When Boruto tried to get trained by his mentor, Sasuke, he paid a visit to the Uchiha residence. When Boruto mentioned Jiraiya to his friend Sarada, who is Sasuke's daughter, she recalls that Jiraiya wrote a book, Icha Tactics. Immediately, they begin to search for that book. Jiraiya was a great ninja who was referred to as one of the legendary Sannin alongside the former Hokage Tsunade and Orochimaru. Since Jiraiya wrote Icha Tactics, just what kind of book could it be? Alright, now this episode pretty much continues on with the last episode that I did talk about, when it's pretty much probably going to be a lot of filler. Now this episode just sounds like filler, it's just radiating off of filler, man, because we know how Naruto is. Naruto pretty much has these episodes in a huge arc. I mean, like specifically, we have a scene like Sage of Six Paths Madara versus Might Guy and 8 Gates, and all of a sudden we get a wacky episode, and I feel like this most likely is going to be that wacky episode. Is going to be the introduction of actual filler and boards. What I'm really hoping is that this is probably going to be the only episode like this, but as I said, Naruto before previously has been known for adding a lot of filler in very serious arcs. Now of course, Urashiki Otsutsuki invading the Hidden Leaf Village is definitely a very serious situation, and of course these fillers are probably going to be popping up. Now sadly, this is actually the last episode of the spoilers, so I can't necessarily give you guys exactly how long these fillers are going to be lasting for, but as I said, I really hope it's just going to be these 2 episodes, or even possibly just this 1 episode. But into the actual contents of the episode is not necessarily a bad theme, it's not really a bad idea in terms of the actual episode, it's a bad idea of the placement of the episode, a terrible idea, mainly because I was never for this, but the actual episode isn't necessarily that bad, mainly because Boruto and Sada learning about Jiraiya, Tsunade, and Orochimaru is a very good thing. Pretty much all of us wondered how Jiraiya would probably react to seeing Naruto as Hokage, seeing Boruto, his son, pretty much being extremely overpowered, and also having Boruto finally meeting Jiraiya, but we could probably get a fraction of that with Boruto reacting to the actual legacy, the actual things that Jiraiya did when he was actually on Earth. Not only that, one of the biggest part of Jiraiya was of course his perverseness and pretty much his quote-unquote research. Now of course, Boruto and Sada doesn't necessarily find the book yet. I'm not sure if they're ever going to find the book. Hopefully, as I said, this is going to be the last episode, so we're probably not going to get the actual ending to this, but still, if they do find the book, they're probably going to find out a lot about what Jiraiya was about, and I'm pretty sure their reactions are going to be hilarious. Now my opinions about this filler episode, This probably means that the Urashiki arc is probably going to last longer than we actually thought. And for it to be filler episodes directly inside of the Urashiki arc, that probably means that the Boruto writers are actually taking this arc seriously. But let me know what you guys think about these spoilers in the comment section below. It's a whole lot of things that were introduced in these spoilers. Not only the fact that Boruto and Shinki pretty much were confronted by Urashiki, but also the fact that they actually escaped, and also Shikaku making it to the Uzumaki residence. But let me know what you guys think about this, and let me know what you guys think about the filler as well. But it's been your boy Baara B, and we out.
It's a knife.
Check my clock, I can't stop. Fuck around, make my 40 pop. No popcorn, I pop pistols. Reaming my body, clothing no issue. Bitch, you look sick, you need a tissue. You drop a body, I just might bless you. I'm metrosexual, no high cholesterol. Where's Jenny Craig? Bitch, just get sexual.